Alright guys, welcome back to my channel, and as you can see, this is not the usual video that goes up. So this video, as you might have seen in the title or in the thumbnail, this is my review of Assassin's Creed 2. Now, this is a game that came out in 2009, so why am I reviewing it now? Well, I decided that, in interest of creating content, I will review every single game that I actually play on the channel. So, since I have only completed 2 games, that is Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Black Flag, these are the 2 games I will be doing reviews on. And so I'll make it a review per week kind of a thing. So since Assassin's Creed 2 was recently finished, I thought, yeah, why not? So before I go any further, I would just like to add, if you do enjoy the content on my channel, then please consider subscribing to it. And if you end up liking this video, then please consider pressing the like button. And that being said, let's go. So yeah, I am doing this review in 2020, and right now I will give you a spoiler warning because this review is going to contain spoilers because this is a game from 2009. I mean, at this point you either have played the game or you don't actually plan on playing it. But even without that, if you do want to see the review and the final scores and my summation of it, then by all means do watch the video. I will tell you exactly which parts to skip. So basically the story and the lore part, that is the only part you should skip. So just skip those parts and you should be fine as far as the spoilers go. Anyway, moving on, I have divided this review into essentially 4 categories. These are story, lore, characters and gameplay. Now obviously this is a single player game, so the story is important, so are the characters and so is the gameplay. The only reason there is a lore here because obviously this is a long-standing franchise, and so lore is an important part in how I review this game. If I may review Red Dead Redemption 2, I may not consider lore to be much of an aspect there because there are basically just 2 games. So keep that in mind for my future reviews as well. And of course, performance on my PC will get a small mention, but this is of course a game from 2009, so performance is performance. Alright, before going into the story section, I would just like to remind you, again, there are spoilers here, like huge spoilers, so yeah, beware. If you don't want to see it, then skip ahead to the time that is on your screen right now. Do you skip it? You didn't? You want to know? Fine, let's go. So, story. In terms of story, right off the beginning, I will say that these are my opinions because as far as art is concerned, it is subjective. You cannot objectively state something is bad or something is good, except when it is Odyssey because that is objectively bad. Okay, sorry, I don't mean that. Fine. This story, at least according to me, is a great one because even though the premise of the historical story, it is rather basic because it's Ezio's parents and almost his entire family gets killed and he goes on a revenge quest. Now even that has nuances because in the end he doesn't actually get revenge. He is not fighting for revenge anymore. He has had enough of it. In fact, he chose to spare Rodrigo Borgia because he has his own principles. That is something I appreciate from him. So this story was already good and it just goes to a whole other level because of the other stories that are attached to it. Now, it's not just a historical story going on in typical Assassin's Creed fashion. The modern day story is going simultaneously, and so is the Isu storyline. Now, the Isu storyline obviously is very limited to the ending of the game because throughout the game we are not actually seeing any Isu aspects. We are hearing about them. We are hearing about the people who came, the ones who came before, but we never actually see them until the end of the game. And of course, that ending is a whole different thing. And of course, in the modern day, the story is still going on as Desmond is trying to learn more new skills and he's preparing himself to take on the Templars. So the package of this whole thing makes it a brilliant story. It's a story that you really should experience. And if again you ignored my spoiler warnings and you're still here and you haven't played the game, please go play the game. Or, watch the videos on my channel that are already there because I did an entire series on this. So yeah, this was something that I really appreciated. And another thing that was in the story that I really liked in Assassin's Creed 2 is that there is respect between the two orders. Yes, the two antagonists and the protagonists are trying to kill each other. Rodrigo Borgia doesn't want Ezio alive. Same can be said for Ezio. But there is a respect between these two orders. Every time when Rodrigo Borgia is speaking, there is respect in his voice, and he demands that respect from his comrades. Because even when the Templars were meeting, was that in Venice? Yeah, it's probably in Venice. And one of the Templars, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, he says that the Pazzi are idiots to have been taken out by this assassin. Rodrigo Borgia comes in defense of Ezio and says that they were not incompetent, Ezio was just that good. And similar thing happened on a very low level Templar, where he was essentially he took up a position in the church to fulfill the Templar needs. And he was saying, and one of the priests was saying that, oh, there's a demon roaming around in the city in wearing a hood. And he's like, he's not a demon. He's just that trained. He is just that good. His skills are natural. His skills are what happened when you train. You guys will basically make the antagonists of entire civilizations, face everything on God. And I really like that there is some respect between these two orders, because I really need these kind of things, because at the end of the day, both these orders, they are fighting for the same thing. They are fighting for peace. Of course, their methods are differing, but since their end goal is so similar, there has to be respect between these two orders. And in this game, there's a lot of respect between the orders, and that I like. But the story is a great one, but not perfect, because I would have given this a perfect rating had the sequence 11 and 12 not happened. Now, almost near the ending of the sequences, what happens is we have to go to Forlì, where we get attacked, the apple gets taken, the game comes to a grinding halt. Like, the game is flowing perfectly. At that point, everything has happened perfectly. You are loving the game. But I think they wanted to make the game a little bit longer. So they put in this sequence, I think sequence 12 it was. And it just stopped. The game stopped right there. And the targets that you were killing, they weren't really your targets. Yes, there was some good stuff there. I mean, there is an episode of that on my channel as well. There was good stuff there. I'm not saying it was all bad, but the pacing was really broken up because of that sequence. Like, suddenly you have 9 more lieutenants to kill, and once you kill them, then you can go kill Savonarola, and that completely ruined the pacing of the game, at least for me. So it does get a point deduction for that. Now, but the ending of the game, oh my word, I have never quite seen such a cliffhanger ending, other than maybe Half-Life, Bioshock. These are the franchises where you really get these fucked up endings. And Assassin's Creed had that. Assassin's Creed had that tradition of like having some really bonkers endings. Like for Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, I'm not going to spoil Brotherhood because I'm currently playing it. Again, watch my channel. So the endings are like huge cliffhangers, and in this case it was like it literally just cuts to black, and we are left with Desmond's reaction, which was, what the fuck? As you heard that, and I agree with it. Now, as I said before, the next category will be lore, and I will be discussing the lore. Now, I don't want to discuss much of it because I honestly want you guys to either play the game or, see my videos. But this is a game that honestly deserves the praise because of what it did with the lore. It didn't just take Assassin's Creed, what Assassin's Creed 1 has set up. It took that and it took it into a completely new direction. It gave stakes for us to care about. It introduced so many good characters. It did so much for the lore. Assassin's Creed 2 basically started the lore that Assassin's Creed is still holding on to. Assassin's Creed, at least in my opinion, is gone. Ever since Origins, Odyssey, Assassin's Creed is gone, and I don't have any delusions that it's going to come back in any way, shape or form. It's always going to be a generic rip-off of something. So for them to just barely hold on somehow to the lore, The reason they could do that is because the base that was set up in Assassin's Creed 2 was so good. That is the reason why these games can still release in this franchise. But of course, that's not the end of it. The lore, the whole Isu lore, the ones who came before, they play an important part. We finally know why we are fighting and that our enemies are not really the Templars, it's the sun. Everything in this game adds up. Everything, the modern day, the Isu lore, the historical storyline, everything adds up. Everything is feeding into each other. Everything is interrelated. And this honestly is one of the best stories I have ever played in any game. Now, moving on to the third category, that is characters. Now, in the characters, of course, I'll have to start with the protagonist, that is Ezio. Now, Ezio Auditore, he is one of the best protagonists ever. I don't think anyone can deny that. He is one of the best protagonists. And honestly, there is not much else to say about him because he is just great. It's just the way he goes through the story. He starts off right where we would start off. If something like that ever to happen to us, we would be distraught. We would seek revenge, probably. I mean, if we could, I don't think I can ever reach his levels of, athleticism, but I would consider it at the very least. And so you can understand what Ezio is doing, but when Ezio makes the decision that he does, you also know that there was a reason for it and that you agree with that decision. Now, I don't agree with everything that Ezio says because honestly, I am not inclined toward the assassin's side, but I can respect his decisions. I can respect what he believes in. I can respect what he does. And that is not something I can say for many characters. Maybe Arthur Morgan, I respect what the character that he is. Maybe Haytham Kenway, I respect the character that he is, and that is very rare for me. So yeah, Ezio is obviously great. But even the supporting cast that was around him was brilliant. You take Claudia, you take Rosa, La Volpe, anyone, Leonardo, seriously, and every single character in this game, they deserve a mention because they are really, really good. And of course, Mario. Not that Mario, the Mario in Assassin's Creed. So yeah, of course, these were again great characters, brilliant characters. Now, the main antagonist, Rodrigo Borgia. Now, Rodrigo Borgia was a historical figure. If, in case you guys didn't know, he was actually the Pope in that period, in the period where this game is set in. So, for them to bring that kind of a character to life is a huge challenge, and a challenge in which they succeeded. They really described the character well. Of course, they took some liberties with him because he wasn't exactly like that. For beginning, he wasn't a Templar. So, they took liberties with it, but in the end, the character that we got is a character that I can genuinely respect. He had things wrong. Even though I am on the Templar side, I still don't believe he is an ideal representation of a Templar, but he was close enough. He wasn't power hungry for the sake of being power hungry. He had a plan. And unlike his successor, Cesare Borgia, who appears in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, he actually had a plan. He was not brash, he was not reckless. He had a plan and he followed that plan to its completion. And for that, I respect the guy. The modern day cast, best this series ever had, with Sean and Rebecca getting added in. Of course, Lucy was already there from Assassin's Creed 1. Desmond got a huge character boost in Assassin's Creed 2 and even further in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. So yeah, the characters introduced in this game, every single one of those characters was brilliant. I honestly do not have a complaint with it. And I know I missed many characters, but trust me, I don't have any problem with any character in this game. Now, let's go to what will probably piss a lot of people off. Now, I have said before that the Assassin's Creed series is basically dead because it's just a generic ripoff. But the one thing these games have improved on is the gameplay. Now, not all aspects of gameplay, by the way. So I would say Assassin's Creed 2's gameplay, it's kind of a rough diamond. The formula it started was so good that it is still used in games releasing even in 2020. Ghost of Tsushima, which released in 2020, was still praised like praised so high, because of course it's a great game. I wish I could have played that game. I wish Sony would maybe someday bring that game to PC. But the main thing about that game, when that game was revealed, when the whole gameplay sections were going on, most of the what the people were commenting was, oh, this is basically what Assassin's Creed should have been. And you can't argue with that. And that is because this game, Ghost of Tsushima, took what was the best elements of Assassin's Creed and then evolved these elements and made a game. So basically they did what Assassin's Creed should have done, but didn't. So why am I including this in Assassin's Creed 2 review? It's because these gameplay systems started in Assassin's Creed 2. The parkour, it was obviously in Assassin's Creed 1, but it was greatly improved in Assassin's Creed 2. The environments felt great. The general experience of going around with the gameplay was great. And that experience was so good that games still rely on those kind of systems even today, even though this game came out in 2009. And that should show how great this game actually is. But as I said, it's a rough diamond because it is rough around the edges. The edge detection for parkour is miserably poor because honestly, there are so many times I was frustrated with the game while I was playing it. I cut those segments out because I don't want you guys to hear me scream about it. But there are so many sections I had to cut out because my character did the wrong jump and my health came down to very low. And that is something they, admittedly did improve a lot in Brotherhood. Playing Brotherhood now, it feels a lot better than Assassin's Creed 2, like a huge jump in terms of the game actually being fixed a lot. But even with that, the parkour system, the system that they started was phenomenal. It didn't work most of the time, but when it did work, it was fantastic. It was challenging. It was rewarding. When you actually pulled off something really nice, you felt nice to do it. It was not just a method to go from point A to point B. You felt like it was a gameplay system in itself. That is something I cannot say from parkour in the modern Assassin's Creed games. Even though I like the system in Unity, even that essentially boils down to you going from point A to point B. It doesn't really have gameplay challenges per se, which this game does. But now to the extremely poor part, and that is combat. And this is my opinion, but I know many people are going to challenge it, but let's be honest, we all know combat is extremely poor in Assassin's Creed and has been for a long time. The combat still isn't good. It's better, it's okay, but it's never good. The combat in Assassin's Creed has never been good, even in the modern games. It is okay, it's passable in the modern games, and in the older games, it's just straight up bad. In Assassin's Creed 2, because there were so many times when I was dodging, the dodge just doesn't work. Even when the dodge works, when you try to hit the guy, you just sometimes don't do anything for some reason. The damage system is inconsistent because sometimes you hit someone, one square goes off, but other times I'm wailing at him for 4 times and nothing happens. There are inconsistencies in the gameplay, and in general, the way the combat was executed was not good. Maybe it was passable back in 2009, but again, I'm reviewing it in 2020. And maybe I should not have my modern standards for judging this game, but hey, so far I have done it. So even considering 2009 games, the combat just isn't that good. In 2009, there were better games in combat. If you take like 2-3 years, games like Sleeping Dogs had come out and they had like excellent melee combat. So yeah, so Assassin's Creed 2, the combat really wasn't good. But what made the gameplay great was social stealth. Now it was a unique concept, and honestly a concept that we haven't quite seen after the game. Now this is a concept where we can essentially go in and blend in with crowds. We can blend in with the environments in a way, so like sitting on benches and stuff. And we can hide from our enemies. And it felt so good when you could basically walk up to your target and just straight up assassinate him with your blade. And without him knowing, because you were blended into the crowd. That felt so nice and so satisfying, and it's gone now. It's just gone. It's not there. It's, even though they are saying Valhalla is going to bring it back, all that stuff, I don't believe it. And even though like it says that Valhalla has these elements, I doubt these are going to be as fleshed out as we had back in 2009, by the way. This gameplay system was almost perfect back in 2009, and they still can't make it a good system in 2020. But that again is not a critique of this game, it's a critique of the franchise. In this game, the system was great, even though sometimes it didn't quite work, but overall the stealth system was brilliant. A crouch button would have been appreciated, but we had to wait 7 years to get the goddamn crouch button, but again, that's that. But yeah, this is a concept that of course the Assassin's Creed games would ditch to change their approach to a more generic one. It's a damn shame. So that's the gameplay done. So now moving on to performance. Now in 2020, any PC from 2020 can run this game. I mean, come on. This is a game from 2009. If this didn't run at locked 60 FPS at like full max settings, I would have been disappointed, but no disappointments there. There were some stuttering issues, but of course, you have to consider again that this game was released for back in Windows 7. There are slight compatibility issues, obviously driver issues. These are not designed for modern hardware, but it still stayed pretty much locked at 60 FPS. As far as bugs and other issues go, I didn't really have any issues whatsoever. I literally ran through the game without any issues. Now, that brings me to the end of the review, and now I'll do the summing up. So, what do I actually feel about this game? This is one of my favorite games, like of all time. If I had top 10 favorite games, Assassin's Creed 2 will be somewhere there. Is this game perfect? Definitely not. Like, it is nowhere close to being perfect. It has problems in every single aspect. It has problems with the story. It has problems with the gameplay. Because, okay, not maybe with the characters, but with the story and gameplay, it definitely has many issues. With, as I said, the sequence 11 and 12 really bringing the game to a grinding halt. And the gameplay with the combat being extremely poor. The general gameplay of the parkour and even the stealth being inconsistent in how it actually works. So yeah, it has its own issues, but it's a damn good game. It is so good that even now I would happily give this position to one of the best games in this franchise. Because I have already, you might see this on the top right of the screen right now, I've already ranked all the Assassin's Creed games based on all the different categories. And in that list, Assassin's Creed 2 actually ended up in the 4th spot. Because that's how good this game was. And that's how good this game still really is. So that's what I think about the game. As far as the score is concerned, I really don't want to do scores. But yeah, scores are really the thing that attracts people. So I will do a score. And the score that I want to give this game is an 8 out of 10. Now, you might think that's a bit harsh considering that I'm singing praises of this game. But honestly, in my scale is a little bit strict. The story, the problems with the story, and in general, the frustrating things in the gameplay, those are worth those 2-point deductions. Other than that, this game is really great. If you still haven't played the game and you skipped the story and lore part, go and playing the game. And if you really don't want to play the game, if you just want to save time, I have a playlist on my channel that should be again on the top right of your screen right now. So check that. Go there, watch that video. If you enjoy those videos, then all the good for me. And do consider subscribing to my channel. So yeah, that brings about the end of the video. Do subscribe to my channel for more content. If you do end up liking the video, then definitely press the like button. I would appreciate that. And yeah, that's my review of Assassin's Creed 2. A great game that could have done with a bit more effort. So yeah, peace.